everyone, and welcome to Macro Day here on Scriptcase by Jamie. And I'm Jamie, of course, showing you how to use the latest and greatest macros within Scriptcase. And today we are covering the crucial macro that gives you the power to completely customize your toolbars at runtime. And it's all about showing your users only what is necessary when it is necessary. So let's dive in today, shall we, with the SC button display macro. Hello and welcome back to another macro day here at Scriptcase by Jamie. And today we are diving into the SC underscore BTN or button underscore display macro. And the purpose of this macro is pretty straightforward, as the macro name indicates. It is to dynamically show or hide a button within your application's toolbar during execution. And that is, of course, pretty nifty. Now, this macro is the opposite of the SC button disabled, which we had covered previously, which just grays out the button. So if you don't remember that one, do be sure to check out last week's macro or the week before, and you'll find out more there. Now, this macro, the button display macro, actually makes the button disappear entirely. This is basically essential for improving security as well as reducing the clutter within your toolbar. So if you have lots of buttons, well, this macro will be for you. And it also ensures a highly context-aware user interface, which is pretty important in my humble opinion. So we do have a very simple button, or macro should I say, that we are going to be using today. So let's dive into one of our applications and we are going to see how this macro works. So if I open up here the grid cells that I have here within my template, and if I run that, we can just very quickly check that out. So in here I have a grid application, and this macro also works within the form application, and it's pretty straightforward to use. So let's start off by accessing here within the grid the events, and if I come here to on record, for instance, I'm just going to show you quick how this is actually created. So we actually add then basically the SC underscore BTN underscore display. And that is then with brackets, open and close, and then we just close our statement here. So now within this, we do have some very basic parameters. Now I'm just going to note very quickly, I'm not in the correct event to use this macro. So that is important. You would want to use this actually within the onScriptInit, or maybe a different event depending on the application you're using, but we will check out a form in a moment. So we have then here some parameters that we can apply, and that is first of all the button name. So here we would then apply our button name, whatever that is. So that could be cancel, delete, publish, whatever your button is called, and then we also indicate whether that is off or on, and that will then adjust the button accordingly. So changing the visibility of the button to be displayed or possibly hidden is very important. And as I was saying, you can use this macro also within a form application, the control, calendar, as well as chart applications. And it is most commonly placed within the onScriptInit. So let me remove the macro from the onRecord event, come here to onScriptInit, and then in here, we can then place the macro. And there we have the SC button disabled from previous. So if I paste in here the latest macro, which is the SC button display, and we have here my button, and I'm going to replace then my button name with the my button. We can comment the previous macro out, save that. And then before we start, let's just check here the grid. Here we have the my button from previously, and that is hidden, as we can see, or grayed out. So it's not entirely hidden, it's just grayed out. Okay, so now if I run the grid application with this macro, the button is now completely hidden from the end user. And as you see, this creates some extra space up here within your toolbar, and that can maybe clean things up for you when you have many buttons there. So now if I switch it on and run again, we will see now that the My button, which we had created previously, is back again. And just like that, we can apply this macro within a grid application, but also within a form application. So let's open up a form here. Here we have the form sales to, and we can run that very quickly so we can have a quick look at what that looks like. And there we then have our form application. Now, if I come here into our events, we should then here on load have also the SC button disabled, which we used previously. So let me comment both of those out. I will paste the previous button, the previous macro in here again, and then just like that, we have then here the SC button display macro. And here, let's then go ahead and remove the delete button. And for now, I'll leave it on. Let me go ahead and run that. And then we can see here within the form, we will have our delete button there and available. And now if I switch that off or type off within the macro parameters, then the delete button will now be hidden from the end user. And just like that, you can see that you can adjust the display of your buttons as and when you need to, depending on maybe a user role, a functionality or process that you have ongoing. Now, it is very easy to add an if statement in here. For instance, we can say if, and let me close that up down here. So within these brackets, we could then add, for instance, a user role or whatever global variable you have assigned to your applications. And then if, depending on the user role, say if this user role, say if that equals, say, viewer, then we would no longer want to display the SC button display. Otherwise, it would automatically be on. So when you process a form and adding in new buttons, it is very important to maybe adjust the view of those available buttons for the end user. And you can apply not just global variables, but also field variables in here as well. So if a specific field, for instance here, the sales equals a certain amount, then we can also hide the button as and when you need to. Now, it is important to note that when you are hiding versus possibly disabling buttons, that there is, of course, a key difference between the two, because the SC button display will actually hide the button, make it invisible. It's not available at all to the end user. They will not see it. But then using the previous macro, the SC button disabled, which we have up here, that would then gray that out, and the button is still visible, just not clickable by the end user. Now, it is important to note that the button names must also be in lowercase, so that is very important. So with the SC button display, you've mastered the art of conditional visibility within your applications. Grid, forms, calendar, charts, you name it, this macro will help you clean up that toolbar and provide the buttons that your end user actually requires. Now, creating applications that are not only powerful, but also incredibly intuitive and helpful for your end users. So of course, if you found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up, subscribe for more macro day goodness if you want to learn more about Scriptcase macros, and let me know in the comments how you are using this macro to streamline your interfaces within Scriptcase. And of course, I'll see you next week Friday for another macro day right here on Scriptcase by Jamie.